Ooh, Canada. Wait, my chat isn't quite working, but ooh, first hackathon. Super cool. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. Ooh, also Norway. I'm a big fan of the Nordic countries, so hoping I'm gonna visit your country soon. Hi, Mary, Michigan, US. So we have so far Canada, US, we have Europe. Woohoo, Radu. Radu, is this your first hackathon as well? Cool. So again, for guys that join a little bit later, I'm gonna ask you as you join to write your name in the chat and where you're coming from, because I'm curious to see where our audience is from today, and we are gonna get to know each other a little bit better. So I'm Raluca. I'm talking to you today from Bucharest, Romania, in Europe. Oh, and write whether it's your first hackathon or not, because I'm really curious to see how you guys are doing. The first one today, cool. Yeah, it's my first hackathon as well, so hope it will be great. I'm sure it will be great. Also, before we begin, like I'm curious if anyone wants to share why you are interested in product design and what you hope to find out after today's session. I'm really curious what your expectations are and what got you interested in product design in the first place. You can write in the chat if you want to share. Come on, don't be shy, anyone. Like, we are all interested in design here, so I'm curious what got you interested. And I'll share my own experience later during the presentation as well. Graphic design, cool. Yeah, to express yourself. Yeah, I totally get that, because I'm coming from a finance background where I didn't actually get the chance to express myself. So yeah, and graphic design, by the way, is a really great background to transition to product design. So there are a lot of applicable skills from graphic design to product design. Yeah, seems like a long road indeed to finance to product design, but anyone can transition to product design. It doesn't matter what background you have, as long as you market your skills properly. Carolina, hey, nice to see you here. The idea of making a product better to use for someone, I love that. That's what product design should be about. Sahil, sorry if I butchered your name. To find out what product design actually is and how different it is from UI, UX design, since I have UX UI experience, but not product. That's a great question, and we'll answer that shortly during the workshop. Digital advertising, switching to product design, it combines both business and creative stuff. I had the same feeling when I transitioned to product design. I wanted to combine both like rules, business with something a little bit more creative. I didn't want to do solely business and solely creative stuff. So UX design was the perfect fit. Mary, I'm between UX design and UX research because I want to create solutions and express my creativity, but I also enjoy making human connections through interviews. That's great. I also love UX research, and in one of my previous roles as a product designer, I've been in charge of UX research a lot, and it's absolutely amazing to talk to people and gather insights. Maybe if I know you transition to product design, you can actually do both. So as a product designer, you'll be able to do both UX, combine it with research, combine it with visual design, and shape a whole product. So I'm excited to see what you learned from my presentation today, and maybe share with me after what you decided. So Jerry, what do you think? I think we can start, right? We can kick it off.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. So again, welcome everyone to today's workshop. I think it's the first workshop of the day for you guys, so I'm happy to welcome you and wish you a good morning, I think, for most of you, and a great start into this this hacking day. Today we'll talk about transitioning to product design, and I'm gonna guide you through this transition journey, so to say. And before we dive in, I want to introduce myself. My name is Raluca. I know, a very hard name to pronounce, but bear with me. You can also call me Maria. That's my second name. I'm a product designer at ixperi, a product design studio based in Romania, and I'm also student success manager at Mento Design Academy. And let me tell you more about what I do. So first off, I'm part of Mento Design Academy. This is a program, what you might call a bootcamp, that helps people accelerate their transition to UX, to product design. And it's a self-paced program. It's a really practical one. It revolves around mentorship, practical projects, real-life projects, and tailored portfolios. And as a student success manager here, I make sure that students who enroll in the program and want to transition to design have the best experience possible, whether there are problems with, let's say, confidence in themselves, like imposter syndrome, whether they have questions about the community or how to maximize their time or their mentorship sessions. I'm there to help them with all of these questions. Then when it comes to ixperi, I'm also a product designer, and right now I'm working in a larger team with other designers, product managers, software developers in building a cutting-edge financial app, and I've been learning a lot throughout this journey. And as I shared in the chat earlier, I've also transitioned to UX design. So I haven't been in design since forever. I've been in finance. I've tried it all, but in the end, I managed to succeed. I was also a student at Mento in the past. Now a super happy product designer, willing to share my knowledge here with everyone. So let's go first through the agenda for today. I'm going to talk about what product design is and also clarify some differences between UX, UI, and product design. Because you probably might have heard different terminology like UX designer, UI, UX designer, UX, UI. So there are a lot of terms, and I'm going to clarify that. Then I'm going to walk you through some pros and cons of the product design profession, some essential skills to become a great designer. And here you might be surprised because it's not what you might think. Then I'm going to go through some common myths around product design, answer some questions, and tell you the truth when it comes to this transition journey. And finally, I am going to present you with some practical steps to transition to UX design. By the way, I want this session to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to write them in the chat, and I'll make sure to answer as many as I can. So let's start. And I already told you that I'm a product designer. I've told you the agenda for today, and you're probably looking right now at the slide and thinking, okay, like, why is this slide here? Why is Raluca repeating the same thing? Like, okay, shedding some light on product design, understanding, why is this here? You probably noticed that this slide starts with the why. And that's because I got into the habit as a product designer to always start with the why. Like whenever I'm starting a meeting, whenever I'm communicating with my colleagues, with my product manager, whenever I'm sharing my designs with software developers or with clients, I'm always starting with the why. Why did I make a certain decision? Why did I go through UX research? Why am I here today? Why are you guys here today? So it's always important to think about the why, and I wanted to emphasize this as much as possible by introducing this here. So the purpose of this workshop today is to shed some light on product design, the product design role, and to also understand some critical first steps to becoming a design professional. And I've structured this workshop, this presentation, into 3 parts. The first part is around definitions, what product design means and why. Then I'm going to talk about some key skills and answer some questions that I always receive from people who want to transition. And at the end, tell you some practical steps. What is the best way to start this transition journey? So starting with the definitions, like as humans, we interact with technology all the time. Like the moment we wake up in the morning up until late at night, we are interacting permanently with technology. And when we're interacting with every piece of technology, we're not interacting with all of it per se, because technology is super complex. We're not interacting with algorithms, we're not interacting with the whole backend of any application or website, but with a part of it. And this part, which makes the transition between technology and humans, is the actual user interface. This layer of the technology is something that we interact with. This layer, like the interface, translates human knowledge into technology, and technology is translated to human knowledge. And we can talk about interfaces when we are on our phone, when we're working on our laptops, when we're talking about a camera, wearables, or Apple Watches, VR even, or if we own a car, or if you own a Tesla, we also have an interface we need to interact with. And as designers, as product designers, interface designers, we are responsible for this interface. It's that simple. So in a nutshell, if your parents are going to ask you, what do you want to do as a UX designer? What are you going to do as a product designer? You can actually give them this definition. You are taking care of this layer of interaction between humans and technology. So whenever we first think about design, we think about graphic design first. Like a lot of times people hear you are a designer and they ask you to design their logo, or they ask you to do a pretty website for them. And some people might also think a little bit about prototyping. So it's usually this is the most common understanding. When you tell people you take care of an interface, they think about the graphical interface. They think about how this interface actually looks. But there are more aspects when it comes to the work of a designer. There's UX research involved, meaning you need to talk to your users to understand their needs, to understand their pain points and what they want to achieve by interacting with every piece of technology. It's about user testing. Whenever you're developing, you're helping with the technology and developing the interface and working on the interface, you need to test it with people to see how easy they find it to interact with. It's also a lot about information architecture, how information is displayed in every product. And really, really important, it's all about collaboration and communication, because you can be the best designer in the world, you can have the best solution to make humans interact with technology, but if you are not able to communicate this solution, then everything is for nothing. So collaboration, communication, presentation skills are also important when it comes to the product design profession. And of course, there are other like smaller things involved, like animation, interaction design, visual design, copywriting, which is really important. All the text we see on an interface is really important when people communicate with technology. So there are a lot of aspects that the product design profession encompasses, and as you can see here. So initially, you might think by looking at this image, by looking at this screen, that this is a product, this is the work of a product designer. And partially that's true. This is the work of a product designer, but what I wanted to show you is that our work is not only this. So if you see a pretty prototype, if you see a pretty visuals, I know you go on Dribble and see some leakable designs. These are only a part of our work. It's only the tip of the iceberg. Because when it comes to real design, to product design, our work can also look like this compared with the pretty interface, that pretty simple interface we had previously in the backend. This is what designers can do as well. They can do user flows, task flows, they can do tree testing, test information architecture, they do competitive analysis. So there's a lot of information before we reach this super simple, super clean stage. So this is our backend and this is our front end, if you were to think about it in these terms. So again, to sum it up, user experience would refer to a person's overall experience when using a product or service. So as a UX designer, taking care of how people experience this interface, whether this experience is positive or negative, just to put it in a nutshell. And user interface refers to the specific design of the graphical interface that a person uses to interact with that product or service. And those two are kind of combined. And I think we had a question when we started as well. So what's the difference between being a UX designer, a UI designer, or a product designer? And you can also be a UX researcher, you can also be a UX strategist, but for now, I'm only going to cover these three. So as a UX designer, user experience designer, I'm in charge of how the user interacts with this interface and how the experience is. So I'm in charge of I'm in charge of the structure of let's say the skeleton of this experience. I'm in charge of wireframing. So whenever users are entering a flow, they want to achieve something, I'm responsible to see how they can get there and what their experience is from A to B. So I'm in charge of wireframing, I'm in charge in prototyping, seeing how the product works and testing it with people. I'm in charge of defining user journeys, user flows, and thinking at every step what's the experience that users have with that product. And I'm also in charge of designing visuals, of course. I'm doing some research activities. I might be doing user interviews, I might be doing affinity mappings, talking to people and testing my my product, doing concept testing and so on. And as a designer, I might also do some workshops to help other teams involved, such as, I don't know, product managers, to understand the role of design and increase and leverage collaboration. And as top skills, we would have prototyping, research, visual design. And you'll see that a lot of these are common to UI designers and product designers as well. Moving forward to UI designers, sometimes these terms UX, UI are used interchangeably. But if we were to give a more strict definition of the term, a UI designer would be more responsible about of the look and feel of the particular interface, particular screen or app. So the UI designer would be a little bit more focused than UX designer on the high fidelity design, prototyping. This can be the job of a UX designer as well, but UI designer would prototype high fidelity designs. They are also taking lead on creating style guides. So how will the buttons look like? What colors should we use? What typefaces? So focusing a lot more on these. And they can also contribute to design systems. So as top skills that a UI designer should have would be visual design, graphic design, and interaction design. And now when we get to the product designer, in my view, a product designer kind of encompasses all those too. Like, a product designer does the work of a UX designer, also has knowledge of style guides, of the visuals and high fidelity design. And the product designer is a little bit more involved in shaping the product, in the strategy of the product, collaborating even more with product managers and sometimes directly with the client as well. So they would lead research efforts, they would employ ideation techniques, communicate problems, solutions, design decisions, and they will also prototype and test. So when we think that designers, like UX designers, UI designers, want a seat at the table, they want a seat at the table to make decisions, those would be the product designer. It's a designer that has a lot more to say when it comes to how this product should be built, the strategy of the product. So if you look at the top skills, they have the same skills as a UX designer, visual designer. So they know how to do research, they know how to do visual design, but they have a little bit more business knowledge. They are involved in business more and have more strategy orientation, let's say. So again, to summarize what product design means in a more visual way. So product design would be somewhere at the intersection between visual design, business strategy, psychology, and computer science. So it doesn't have a very strict definition. It's something that encompasses a bit of all to help shape the product. So by now you should, I hope you are excited to become a product designer. But if you're not yet, I want to give you some pros and cons of becoming a product designer. So first off, I'm going to start with the pros. When we talk about design, there is a huge demand for this type of work. Users are becoming more and more interested in experiences. Users don't want to have mediocre experiences anymore. There are a lot of competitors on the market, and people want satisfying products. They want products that solve their problems, solve their needs, but are also delightful to use. And companies and startups are understanding the needs of the user, and they are in need UX designers, of product designers, to help them achieve their goals when it comes to these experiences. And if you're looking for a job that's remote friendly in general, or flexible, this can be a good job for you. Of course, it depends on the company culture. It depends on the industry a lot. It depends on the region. But usually when we talk about design is a very digital friendly profession, because we are building digital interfaces. So you'll get the chance to work with people from all around the world. Sometimes you'll get a chance to work on different projects from different industries, and gain a truly worldwide experience as a designer. And again, as a product designer, even if you are introvert, I'm an introvert as well, so you can still go into product design. But product design is full of social interaction and connections, because you will need to talk a lot to your users to understand people's needs. So it's a very social profession, if we were to put it like that. And you also need to collaborate a lot with other designers, with software developers. So you're never going to do your job as a designer all alone in a room and ship your screens, ship your design, and then continue with your day. So it's always going to be about collaboration. So if you enjoy working with people, if you enjoy understanding behaviors, understanding how people work, and getting better at social interactions, then again, this is a pro for product design as a profession. And then if you are the type of person that wants to make decisions, that wants to shape the world around them, and wants to actually create something that makes people's lives easier, then again, product design is a very good profession to start with, because you'll get the opportunity to make those decisions and influence the end product. So now things are not always that easy, let's say, because product design is so awesome, and I hope you share my opinion. Competition is quite high. So if you're looking to transition into this industry, it's not going to be easy, let's say, but it's also not impossible. So it might require a little bit more effort. The good news is that it can be done. So with a lot of effort, if you are intentional about it, if you know how to leverage your previous background, your previous skills, it can definitely be done. You just need to want it and to work for it. And by the way, I just realized that maybe I should have included that in the previous section. Another pro for product design is that anyone can transition from any background. So there are some backgrounds you can transition easier from, like psychology, graphic design, computer science. It's easier to get into product design because you already have a specific mindset. But I transitioned from finance. I've met a lot of successful designers who transitioned from the medical space, from hospitality, from engineering. So basically everyone can transition to product design. They just need to want it and leverage their skills. And I'm going to talk about how to do this in a bit. And to finalize with the cons for product design profession is that sometimes, as you probably noticed, a lot of terms are still used interchangeably, like UX, UI, product design. You might sometimes need to spend a little bit of time explaining people what it is that you do. And here I'm not referring necessarily to your family, but sometimes to stakeholders or other teams within the company as well. Because product design is, like by this definition, is kind of a new profession, and you might need to explain what it is that you actually do and how you create value for the product. So that was the first part regarding definitions. And before we move into some key skills, I'm curious if you guys have any questions so far, any thoughts. Did I manage to clarify the difference between UX, UI, product? Are you excited? Are you more excited now to join the product design profession? How do you guys feel? Can write in the chat. Nobody? Sure. So Jerry's asking if I can elaborate a little bit on explaining about what the job is about. So sometimes even if you're working as a product designer or you're working as a UX designer, you might, so you will interact with a lot of teams from the client, right? Like you'll interact with marketing teams, legal teams, business. So a lot of people that don't actually know what is exactly that you do. So they sometimes might ask you to, I don't know, do presentations or do graphic design, or they might expect only mock-ups or visual design from your side. So sometimes you might need to explain a little bit what your process is. For example, when you're doing UX research as well. Like you sometimes might need to explain why you are doing this UX research, why it's important to talk to people, because people might have the impression that they know their users' needs, so they need to they need a little bit more context and for you to give them the reasons behind every step of the process, and you might lose a little bit of time on that. Jerry, hope this answers your question. Let's see. We have something. How do portfolios for UX design and product design differ? Are there different recommendations for each? So portfolios can vary depending on what type of role you're looking for. So if you're looking for, let's say, a UX research role, or if you want a product design role but more focused on research, you might talk a little bit about the research steps that you took within the project. Then if you're looking for a more visual oriented role, you might focus a little bit more on visual and less on the UX process. When it comes to UX design and product design, like the portfolios can be the same, so they don't differ that much, because you need to focus on the process when it comes to both, to show critical thinking, to show systems thinking, and how you started from a problem and how you ended up with a solution. Usually product designers are hired on like more senior roles, and they do know a little bit more about the business and about the strategy. So if you have a little bit of experience and you're targeting a product design role, it's important for your portfolio to showcase the challenges that you've been through, how you managed to solve them, whether you shifted strategy in the middle of the project, because sometimes that might happen a lot, and it shows adaptability whenever you need to shift and reiterate on your work. So if you want to focus on that, showing your challenges, showing how you went through the process can help. Another question. So how do we maintain a design portfolio? It's in Figma. How do I present it on my profile? Just the URL. Okay, so we usually recommend when you're working on a design portfolio to to have it in a tool that's easily accessible to everyone, because your design portfolio might be viewed first by a recruiter, for example, or someone who doesn't know how to go into Figma and how to use it. So you can either do it in, you can either build a website. I know there are many options. I know you can use Webflow, you can use other types of no-code websites, or you can code your own website or ask someone to help you. If you don't want to have a website, you can build your portfolio in Notion. I definitely recommend it for that. The most important thing is to have a URL and to keep your portfolio as accessible as possible to everyone who might come in contact with it. Okay, another question for Jerry. So what are different roles within a team, and how does these different roles fit into modern day companies such as Apple? So I can only talk from my experience in a smaller design studio, where I usually tackle more aspects of the design process. But from what I know, in larger companies such as Apple or Google, there are different roles. Like some people can focus more on user research, so they focus on interviews, they focus on testing, and they share those insights with designers. There are visual designers who focus more, again, on the visual aspects and graphical interface. We have UX designers who focus on wireframing, prototyping, user flows, user journeys. We might have UX writers, like people who focus on copywriting. So I think the larger the organization is, like, the roles are a little bit more split, and you need to collaborate with more people instead of just doing everything alone. Okay. I think we can move on to the second part, the key skills needed to become a designer. And I'm really curious. You can write in the chat if you're thinking about, like, what's the most important thing you think you need to have in order to transition to product design. And I'm going to start by telling you that it's not Figma. A lot of people going into design, they have the impression that if they learn how to work in Figma, then they are designers. And this is not true. This would be the equivalent of, I don't know, knowing how to write in Microsoft Word or knowing how to write in Google Docs, and thinking that you are a good writer that can publish a novel. So knowing the tools doesn't necessarily make you a master in that field. So there are a combination of skills that can help you become a product designer. I'm not going to cover all, because that would mean I would need to talk until the end of the hackathon probably. So, but I will cover some key ones. And the first one would be problem solving. Like, if you consider yourself a person who loves to solve problems, who loves to identify user needs, pain points, and to find creative solutions to meet them, then you might be a person who should go into product design, because there's always a lot of problem solving when it comes to this profession. It's not Figma, it's not creativity, although, of course, those are a big part of the job, but it's mainly problem solving. It's, on one hand, finding creative solutions for different problems for people, and at the same time, finding the best way to make others understand your solution. The second key skill to get into product design would be knowledge and understanding of human factors. And this doesn't mean that you need to get a degree in psychology, even though one will help. So it's good if you are transitioned from psychology, but it's definitely not a must. because you'll get to understand people if you listen actively to them and if you try to own your observation skills. As a product designer, it's important to understand your target audience, to actively listen to people, synthesize information, and understand the context of use more than anything. And that's why I have this photo here with the camera. Imagine this guy is your user, and you might think, okay, let me design a very cool interface for this camera. But you need to think, in what context is this guy going to use it? Is he taking photos of food in the kitchen, or is he taking photos of his family outside, or is he going to take, I don't know, wildlife photography while snowing or while it's raining outside? So you need to always think about the context in which your users are interacting with your product. And for the third skill, and I think this is one of the most important ones, but also super underrated, this is storytelling. As a designer, you'll gather a lot of data. You will talk to a lot of people. You'll understand problems. You will understand how people use a certain interface, but it's going to be hard to come up with a solution to be implemented and to talk about the solution with others if you don't create a narrative that's backed by this data. So being able to communicate user journeys, being able to communicate solutions in a compelling way, this will take you far as a designer. It's not about just sharing data with stakeholders or with other people. It's also about creating a story around them. And the fourth key skill would be adaptability, first of all, because design is constantly evolving and changing. You might learn Figma today, but Figma, I don't know, might be replaced tomorrow by another tool, and you'll need to learn that. So you need to learn the principles, you need to understand what you're doing, you need to think about the why, and then you'll be fine. So adaptability is really important. And since as a designer you will work in the tech industry, which is evolving so fast, it's always important to stay up to date with industry trends and be flexible in your problem solving approach. Your first solution is never going to end up being built. It's gonna be probably your 10th or 100th solution. So you need to be flexible in iterating and keeping this adaptability mindset. So I think we're kind of almost reaching the end of the presentation. So I'm going to try and curate the content a little bit and speed up in order to go through everything. So quickly going through these myths, I always receive these questions. Do product designers need to learn how to code? And the short answer will be no. Coding skills can be a bonus, but not a deal breaker. If you know how to code, you'll definitely have a better understanding of the product. But the most important key skill here is to communicate, to learn how to communicate with developers, not to know how to code. Another question around product design is whether they need to learn about the business. And the answer here would be yes. Product designers are always involved in the business. They need to understand how the business measures success, what the KPIs of a business are, and how our product differentiates itself from other competitors in the market. That will help you as a designer build better solutions. And lastly, the last question from this section, do product designers need to learn how to draw? The answer would be, of course, no. And this is something that surprises a lot of people. Product designers don't need to, to know how to draw. There are plenty of tools out there to help you express yourself, to help you share the message. The important thing is to work on your communication skills, to communicate that message, to make that message come across. no matter what tools you learn. Figma can be easily learned no matter what background you have. And going real quick into some practical steps. The first one would be to understand the why, and there are two types of whys. The first why is, why do you want to transition to UX design? So it's important to think about your goal. It's important to think about your personal why, because by setting a goal of starting this journey, you'll be able to be more successful at the end, because you tailor your journey to this goal. And then to understand, to train this muscle of understanding the why whenever you are asked to do anything. Also, to start your transition to UX design, you need to learn how to listen. You'll always be listening to your users, you'll always be listening to your colleagues, the business, and it's important to practice active listening. Then a good place to start would be to read, to watch, and to get inspired as much as possible. There are a lot of resources out there when it comes to product design, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube. And while those can provide more actionable insights into the industry, I do recommend you start with reading some of the most important books in UX design, to get yourself accustomed with the industry and create an opinion of your own. Then to start looking into this industry, you need to use reverse engineering. So break apart, let's say, figuratively, any application, any website that you love, any great experience, or any bad experience. Try to think why this experience is great or why this experience is bad, and try to understand it and work on your observation skills. And to learn, for example, Figma or any other tool of design, I do recommend you take some screenshots of your favorite apps or favorite websites and try to copy them in your favorite tools. Study them, understand how elements are placed, understand hierarchy, and try as much as possible to dive deeper into their thoughts. And lastly, you can also reach out and find a mentor, someone who will be able to guide you, answer your questions, and help you with accountability. You can find your mentor in any design community. People in this community are super friendly and always willing to help. You can go, for example, on ADP list and find your mentor. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn, provided that you're polite. And you can also join a bootcamp or a program that's focused on mentorship, like, for example, in Mento. On your observation skills, we talked a little bit about that. And when it comes to your work, when you will do your first design work, even if it's just in Figma for now, when you start your transition, it's important to share it as much as possible with others, with your mentor, with your design community, other designers, and get feedback on your work, because feedback will help you grow more, like, faster than anything else. So that's about it for today. I know we're a little bit past time. If you guys have any questions, or you want to connect, if you have any questions on the product design profession, what you need to transition, about mentorship, or any other thing around design, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a message. I'll be happy to answer. And if you want to check out Mento Design Academy, I will leave here the website and our Medium page, where you can have a lot of resources about transitioning to product design. And yeah, thank you all. And sorry, Jerry, for for going a little bit past the time, but we had a lot of interesting questions in the first part of the presentation.